Hey guys, welcome to yet another session by Scalar. So in this particular session, we are looking to cloud engineers, salary, roles and responsibilities, and all the things related to it. So now before we move on with this particular session, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and like if you like the content, and also leave a comment if you want to understand anything, and we would reply and make sure you are helped. Right? So before moving on, let's just understand what exactly will be covered in this session. Also, if you want a textual reference of what exactly is covered in this particular session, InterviewBit has a blog on exactly the same concept. You can go ahead and check it out, and the link is provided in the description box below. So now let's move on and understand what will be covered in this session, and then move on with the session itself. So first of all, we'll be looking into cloud engineer. Who is a cloud engineer and what do they do? And once that is done, we'll be looking into the cloud engineer salary. So in cloud engineer salary, first of all, we'll be looking into the salary in India. So once we cover cloud engineer salary in India, we'll be looking into various factors within that. We'll be looking into location, we'll be looking into experience, we'll be looking into the role of job which has been taken up. So these are the different deciding factors which will affect the salary of a cloud engineer. So these are the things we'll be looking into, and then we'll be looking into certain job roles in cloud, such as solutions architect, sysops administrators, and also finally cloud developer. So these are some things we'll be looking into, and once this is all done, finally we'll be looking into top companies who are hiring for cloud engineers and what are the salaries like in those companies, and also quickly look into the United States salary for cloud engineers. So these are the things which will be covered in this particular session, guys. So before we move on, basically cloud engineer is a particular job role which is currently under scarcity. It's basically flourishing. Many companies want to hire cloud engineers, but there are not a lot of cloud engineers who are extremely skilled in their particular basically skill set, which is Linux, cloud, and all that. We'll also be looking into what are the skills required for a cloud engineer in the session. So everything will be covered. So it's not just a session for salary or roles and responsibilities. If you want to know anything about cloud engineers, this is the right session. So now, without any delays, let's begin with it.
Hey guys, so I've already told you certain information about what exactly will be covered in this session. So now without delays, let's start with the sessions. So first of all, let's understand who is a cloud engineer and what do they do. Okay, so first in that particular points, let's understand who is a cloud engineer. A cloud engineer is an IT expert who is in charge of all technical aspects of cloud computing. So, if you would have heard of cloud computing, you would know this. If you do not know what exactly is cloud computing, go check out our previous content in our channel. We have a simplified cloud computing tutorial where you can understand everything about cloud computing. Just understand that and then go ahead and learn about cloud engineer, right? So now, so all technical aspects in the sense designing, planning, management, maintenance, and supporting a company's existing infrastructure and investigating alternatives for moving various functions like database storage or cloud-based system. For example, what they mean is basically, what do they mean is designing basically is when a client comes to you and says these are the requirements, or when somebody from the company itself, your let's say your manager or your head comes to you, so these are the requirements, and I want you to design a cloud architecture which will support this particular application. So the first thing you will be doing is you will be getting all the requirements and you will be designing it in manually. You will not directly go and create the architecture. First of all, you will decide what are the different services you're going to use, how will the architecture look, and everything will be done. So first of all, you will design it and you will plan everything. So planning in the sense it will also include the budget. So according to the budget, you will be choosing particular components within particular features within the services you already choose in the designing phase, right? So you would plan everything, the budget, what exactly would be the total cost for the company every single month, the operational costs, everything will be done. Then you would basically get the approval and then you will create it. Okay, so you will create the architecture will be on the cloud. So once it's on the cloud, there are two important things, that is management of the architecture and maintenance of the architecture. That will also be covered by cloud engineer. And also, if your company already has an infrastructure which is on the cloud, in that case you would directly be on the management and maintenance and also troubleshooting stuff, so you'll be already on it. And also, let's say your company has a database storage in one particular on-premises network which is costing a lot of operational costs, and they're asking you how exactly can we shift this to the cloud. We want to migrate it to the cloud to reduce costs, and how to do that. So you should be able to come up with certain basically certain things which you can do, which the company can do in order to migrate it to the cloud database, yeah, which will basically reduce the cost. So again, so once that is done, once the company approves, you should be able to migrate and maintain the function of the new system. Okay, so now to complete the migration, cloud engineers must have technical skills as well as the capacity to negotiate terms with vendors. Again, so cloud engineers, once, as I told you, right, it comes under the budget. They'll have to budget everything, and then they'll basically communicate with the sales team from the cloud providers like AWS or Azure or Google Cloud in order to understand what exactly would be the capacity, how much would be the cost, everything would be understood, and it will basically come within that particular, it should come within their budget which they have in order to satisfy their company's needs, and also how to provide data security. So data security is another part, because if you're moving your mission critical data into the cloud, your data should be secure in the cloud. So what exactly are the steps you are taking in order to secure it? And best practices, so these are, yeah, oh, whatever you do, if you create an application, if you use cloud, you will have to implement best practices to keep it safe and secure. So these are some of the things which again a cloud engineer will do if they're migrating. And these specialists also work with IT teams, other IT teams like developers, and data scientists, ML engineers, artificial intelligence engineers, so all of them, in order to move their current structures which are available in the on-premises setup or in local setup, how to migrate them into cloud. So again, you will be able to help with that, and also communicate these progress with the upper management, right? So basically, a cloud engineer should be involved in all phases of cloud, okay, everything in cloud. But there are specific roles within cloud engineers which we'll be looking into. But as a cloud engineer, you will be involved in like all or one of these phases in cloud computing. Okay, so this is basically a cloud engineer. Now, what does a cloud engineer do? So first of all, there are so many different positions within cloud engineer. Cloud engineer is just the generic term which we are saying for a person who works on cloud computing, but there are different types of work on cloud computing itself. First of all, architect for the cloud, engineer for cloud software, engineer in charge of cloud security, engineer in charge of cloud-based systems, in charge of cloud networks. So there could be so many different roles for you. So you might be creating architectures on the cloud for applications which are given by the company. You can basically engineer for cloud software, that is, you're creating applications which are going to be uh, like hosted on the cloud. Cloud security, so if you are basically in charge of your company's cloud computing security. Cloud-based systems, you are in charge of your company's cloud-based systems which are already in place. You are there to maintain and manage them. In charge of cloud networks, so when you have hundreds of thousands of servers, you will also have your network size also will be much bigger. How exactly you are managing your network, how to make sure the communication between your servers are proper, how is the communication between your database engines and your regular servers are proper, so that and all will be covered by that particular engineer, right? So instead of focusing on the complete technology, you will have to choose one part of cloud computing and learn that. So that's basically what you'll have to do, because they won't hire a cloud engineer who will basically do every single thing, because that's not possible at all. That will require lots of skills, lots of tools to learn, and also that will consume a lot of time. You wouldn't know what exactly is your position, but maybe that would be applicable for a manager who handles the entire cloud team, right? They would basically have to have an understanding of all of these roles. But when it comes to cloud engineering in particular parts, you'll just have to know those kinds of services. So cloud engineers are commonly hired by companies that want to deploy cloud services, scale up their use of cloud resources, or improve their cloud knowledge and technology. Right. So again, they wouldn't hire anybody directly known as cloud engineers. There would be particular roles within that as well. So these are some of the roles, and these are the things which cloud engineers do. So I hope who is a cloud engineer and what exactly they do is understood. Now, moving on to the main part of this particular session, which is salary. So we'll look at the United States salary later in the session. For now, let's just understand the salary of a cloud engineer in India according to various different factors. First of all, according to Indeed's January 2020 study, so the average annual income of a cloud engineer in India is 7.5 to 8 lakh rupees. So this is the average. So basically, the starting salary will be a little lesser than 7.5, and the higher so more experience, the salary will be increasing. Okay, so in this information was derived from a review of 228 salaries provided to Indeed. So again, so this is just the information we are providing you, because this number is not provided by us. This number is provided by a really popular job site in India, which is Indeed.com, and Indeed is basically providing this particular uh, estimate from 228 salaries. Even though 228 salaries is a sample really small sample, right? But even then, at least this particular sample is basically enough to establish a common ground, a common number which is helpful. So 7 to 8 lakhs would be your average salary for a cloud engineer in India. So even though so basically you can see the second point is basically says that the demand for cloud engineers are increasing, but there is a scarcity of cloud engineers because there are not a lot of people who are experienced in cloud. So that basically hinders with hiring people. Okay, so basically it would be the right time for you to learn cloud in order to get into a cloud job. But again, this is all subjective. The best approach to look at your cloud engineer salary in India is the job title, not the average salary. So this again you can see here, right? So 7.9 lakhs per year is the average base salary. Even you can see there are people who are getting 2.2 lakhs, which is a separate role. There are people who are getting 10 lakhs and more than 10 lakhs as well. The average salary for a cloud solutions engineer is 7.9 lakhs. So that is what is provided. A solutions engineer, a solutions architect in cloud. So this is just for a solutions architect. This is the salary of a solutions architect. Okay, base salary, bonus, profit sharing, total pay. Yeah, so total pay starts from like 3 LPA to 10 LPA. So again, it can go more than that when you become a senior solutions architect, right? It can totally increase. So that wouldn't be a big issue. All right. Okay, so this is basically it. Coming to the next part. So we understood the basics of cloud engineering salary. So now let's understand the deciding factors of the salaries. So what exactly decide how much will a person get? Okay. So first of all, experience. So as you grow in your corporate ladder, your income will obviously increase and you will get significant pay rise when you are working in top companies, and also your experience is increasing. And when you are getting into more of a management role than a technical role, right? So in that case, it'll increase. So according to the experience, so if your experience is between 0 to 3 years, the average salary you would be getting is 12 LPA. But if your experience goes from 4 to 6 years, the average salary you would be getting is around 18 LPA. So this is basically the difference in salary. Okay. So in only 4 years, you can make 3 times of the starting salary you would make as a new employee. So you should basically think of something like a job as an investment, because you're getting into it at the start. You might be earning less salary because you don't have any experience, but down the line in 3 to 4 years you would be getting 18 to 20 LPA, right? So this is based on experience. So 0 to 3 years 12 LPA, 4 to 6 years 18 LPA. So again, early career you can see 1 to 4 years 6 LPA, 5 to 9 years 9 LPA. So this is from a different website. So we wanted to give you a difference in the values as well. So an early cloud. So this is for complete cloud engineer. This is for just the cloud solutions engineer. So 1 to 4 years, it is based on 18 salaries, and 5 to 9 years also based on 18 salaries. Okay, so this is just based on 18 salaries, guys. It's a very small sample. So we are just giving you an average, so it doesn't matter for now. Yeah, so in an early career, you can see it would be around 6, and later in the career it would be 9. Okay, so I hope this is clear. The experience is one of the deciding factors in every single job role, and also in cloud engineer. Coming to the next one, location. So the location will also be how to say, location also will basically decide your salary. For example, in Karnataka, especially in Bangalore, your salary will be more because of the number of IT companies who are available here. So you can see in IT hubs in India, the IT hubs include Karnataka, Mumbai, and Tamil Nadu. So which is basically Karnataka, it's basically Bangalore. Mumbai is the city. Tamil Nadu is again basically Chennai. So yeah, so these are the average salaries provided. Karnataka it's 9, Maharashtra it's 7, Tamil Nadu it's around 4.5. Okay, so these are the average salaries again. These are not the exact values. These are average salaries. So keep that in mind. So you can still get a better salary in Mumbai or Chennai or Bangalore. So it doesn't determine that only you will get this much salary. So these are just estimates of people who are working in that particular location and their data which they have entered. Okay, so these are the salaries. And also you can see Bangalore, Mumbai, Hyderabad, more salary, and Pune. So basically, if it's a metropolitan city or a cosmopolitan city, your salary will be higher than a regular city like Pune, right? Okay, coming next is the job role. So there are various different job roles in cloud. Okay, so there is popular job roles. There is solutions architect, sysops engineer, DevOps engineer. So these are really really popular roles, and so you can get a recognizable certificate for these roles. So AWS is your GCP. You can get these certifications. Okay, and so yeah, so solutions architect, sysops engineer, DevOps engineer. So every single certification will concentrate on one particular aspect of cloud computing, and after becoming a cloud engineer, that will basically become your specialty in cloud. So now let's look at the average salary that these guys make in these particular roles. So solutions architect 6.5 LPA, DevOps engineer 7.2 LPA, and sysops engineer 8.3 LPA. So these are the average salaries of people who are working in these particular job roles. So this is the third deciding factor. So experience, location, and the job role you're going for. Okay, the fourth one is skill set. So even though you are taking up a particular certification, it doesn't matter when you have certain skills. For example, if you are able to develop applications and also able to work on cloud, you can become a cloud developer, and that will gain you more salary because you have a better skill set than the other cloud engineers who don't know how to create applications, right? So top skills employers value in a cloud engineer. First of all, AWS is the most popular one. So you can go ahead with Azure also, no problem, or GCP, it doesn't matter. But AWS is the most popular cloud provider used by cloud companies who are going into cloud, 58%. Python is really popular next after AWS because Python can be used for a lot of things. You can develop application and also you can use it for scripting, right? In cloud, scripting is really required. So scripting, Python, then Java, then comes Azure. Okay, so then comes Agile concepts, then Puppet, Chef, Ansible. These are all configuration management tools uh, and also server management tools, you can say. And then comes Docker, containerization tool, VMware, virtualization tool. So first, just make sure the first at least you know like two skills from the first top skills. Maybe you can know two different cloud providers. You can know AWS and Azure, or you can know AWS and Python, or you can know Azure and Python, or Azure and Java, something like that. So if you have two top skills, that will be really really good. Coming to the left side, looking at the average salary which you will get according to the skill set. If you are into security and infrastructure for cloud, let's say you are a cloud security engineer, you will get more salary than a regular cloud engineer because cloud security is really really necessary right now for a lot of companies. So 12 LPA would be the average salary. If your experience is in cloud computing, not particular technology, but again you know multiple technologies as well, so it will be 9 LPA. If you have experience in Amazon Web Services, AWS, 9 LPA. Linux, again, it's 8.7 LPA. Azure, it's 8.2 LPA. So these are based on the skills. So Linux is really, really important, guys. You may learn AWS, you may learn Azure, you may learn GCP, you may learn IBM Cloud, doesn't matter. But Linux is mandatory for all of the cloud services. So make sure you learn Linux. Okay. Okay. So we've seen all of this. So these are the deciding factors for the salary. Now coming to cloud engineer job roles and responsibilities. So the role of a cloud engineer depends on the vertical you service. Your position as a cloud engineer may change. So you can perform the following tasks. So this we already discussed: cloud security, charge of cloud systems, developer for the cloud, architect for the cloud, and network engineer. Okay, so these are the different kinds of things you can do on the cloud. And these are different things you can do on the cloud, but So these are basically combined into three different major categories. Architect of solutions, there is solutions architect. Developer for the cloud, which can also be called as cloud developer, and engineer for system operations, which could be called sysops engineer. Okay, so these are the three major roles in cloud. So now let's look at these roles one by one. First of all, architect of solutions. So there are people who will be these are the people who will be involved in the infrastructure and the application development. As a result, extensive technical skills and experience in creating distributed applications and systems on the cloud platform are required. Simply said, they are in charge of drawing up blueprints for application designs. So let's say your company is coming up with a new application. You should create a blueprint on the cloud in order to what exactly the architecture should be like on the cloud in order to implement this application on the cloud. So you are basically creating solutions for problems the company comes up with on cloud. So you're basically creating solutions for the problems which are arising on the cloud for the company you're working for. So that's basically the task of a solutions architect. So their responsibilities are designing and implementing cloud applications that are scalable, available, fault tolerant, and dependable. Second one, choosing the right cloud services. That is, you'll have to, if let's say you have two different options of cloud services, you'll have to choose the right service, which is cheaper and also which would be really, really helpful for your company. Third one, using cloud platforms to migrate applications, multi-tier applications. So the thing is, if you have a multi-tier application that is which has multiple layers, it'll be really, really hard to migrate. But as a solutions architect, you should be able to do that, right? You should be able to come up with a solution in order to migrate your application into cloud. Coming to the fourth point, on cloud platforms, designing and deploying enterprise-wide scalable operations. So on cloud, you should be able to design and develop enterprise wide. That is a complete application. So you should be able to create scalable operations on cloud platforms. And finally, you should basically be involved in cost optimizing. So even though you choose the right services, you should also make sure that it is cost optimized and it comes under the budget your company is willing to go for, right? So this is solutions architect. Coming to the next one, which is cloud developer. So the term makes it apparent that these persons oversee coding and application development. So they are expected to be knowledgeable with cloud architecture best practices. So that basically means cloud developers are creating, they are still developing applications, but these applications will should be compatible with a cloud environment. So let's say if they're going for AWS, they should know AWS software development kit. So let's say they are a Java developer who's working as a cloud developer. They should have learned AWS SDK for Java, so they should be able to implement and embed SDKs in order to basically create applications which can then be uh, pushed onto cloud. And what are their different roles and responsibilities? So they should be able to code. So first of all, they should know one high-level programming language, that is like Java or Python or C++ or C Sharp, doesn't matter what language. Second, cloud application development, deployment, debugging skills. So this is basically the role itself, so that they should know. Second, as I told you, they should know SDKs, they should know CLIs, and they should know APIs, application programming interfaces. Fourth, cloud service providers key features. So they should know how exactly a particular cloud service provider will react and what are the key features and best practices which they can involve in developing code. And finally, management of the application's lifecycle is something that you should be aware of. So how exactly the application's lifecycle can be handled on the cloud also should be kept in mind before developing the application, right? Okay, so that is basically a cloud developer. So these are basically the two main roles, guys, in okay, so cloud developer and solutions architect. So sysops admin is one more role, but it's a much simpler role. So I'll just explain it to you in a couple seconds. Basically, sysops engineer is a person who is basically an administrator for the cloud. That's it. They are not going to be. They don't need to know programming languages. They don't need to know migration. They don't need to know all of this. They will have to know cloud services. They'll have to know how to troubleshoot, how to monitor these cloud services and applications in order to make sure your cloud environment is always up and running and highly available. So that will be basically the sysops engineer's job role. Okay, so this is covered. Now let's just look into the skills required for a cloud engineer. First of all, database skills. So the thing is, database skills are really important for every single IT job role because databases are used by every single company, and understanding at least SQL and one database engine would be really good. MySQL or PostgreSQL or DB2 or any database is fine, but SQL would be common, so learn SQL as well. Second one, programming knowledge. So programming knowledge again would be really helpful for any IT role you take up. So learn one programming language, let's say a high level programming language like Java or Python or C++ or C Sharp. Coming to the next one, Linux. Linux is mandatory, I would say. Even though you do not know programming language really well, you're just basic in it. Try to learn Linux really well because Linux is really important. And one more thing, 90% of cloud servers run on Linux, so Linux is really important. Coming to the fourth point, which is networking. So networking is again important because without networking, there is no cloud. Cloud is just networks, but the network is on another company's data center, but it doesn't change the fact that cloud is completely network. And without understanding how networks work, you will not be able to do anything. So understand networking. And cloud service providers, you can go with Azure or AWS or GCP, whichever is easy for you or whichever you're already familiar with, go for them. So you'll have to know at least one cloud service provider because as a cloud engineer, without a cloud service provider, you can't do anything. And finally, APIs and web services. So you should know how exactly APIs work, and you should know how exactly web services like SOAP or REST work. And yeah, so these are basically the skills for a cloud engineer. It will so these are the overall skills like I'm just saying programming knowledge and database skills. I'm not specifically mentioning what exactly you should learn. You can basically it's flexible, you can choose one and learn from it. Okay, so these are the different types of skills for a cloud engineer, guys. Okay, so now let's just understand two things. One is top companies who are hiring for cloud engineers and the salaries in those companies, and cloud engineer salary in the United States. So coming to top companies who are hiring, so Niveo Technologies 18 lakhs, HCL 7, Microsoft 14, Adobe 7.6, and Microland 13.4. So the thing is, again, for cloud engineers, if you're going to a product-based company, your salary will be much more than if you're going to a service-based company, right? So always try to go for a product-based company when you are applying for a cloud engineer role. Your salary will be much higher than a normal role. You can again apply for Amazon itself or Google. You can basically join them as cloud engineers too. Yes, and finally, cloud engineer salary in the United States. So cloud engineer in New York, $139,000 per annum. Boston, 124,000. Chicago, 118,000. Atlanta, 113, and Austin, 115,000. Yeah, so basically these are the different salaries, guys, in US. So the average salary will always be about $100,000 for a cloud engineer in the US. So wherever you're working in US, it'll always be a six-figure salary for a cloud engineer. So you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, so this is basically it for this session. I hope everything is clear over here. I hope everything is understood. The salary was the main part, and also I hope you understood the roles and responsibilities of a cloud engineer. What are the different types of skills you'll have to have as a cloud engineer. So that's basically it for this particular session, guys. Meet you in another session. Thank you.